What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Tripp. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Live podcast, where we interview the very best real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders all throughout the country. And today, I'm excited about today. I'm always excited, but today I have the second half of the Tiffany and Josh High collective. Mr. Josh High is with us. How's it going today, Josh?
Great, Brian. Hey, I just want to take some time and thank you for having me on the show, man. I'm really looking forward to talking with you guys more about what our process looks like and diving into it.
Yeah, and I just want to dig right in. I don't like to talk about a lot of fluff. We really want to get right to the point, but I do want to just kind of acknowledge real quick. Last week's episode that we recorded just with Tiffany, she does more of kind of the marketing. They have a marketing and sales company that's built around real estate. Just so happens to be real estate, obviously. But Tiffany handles more of the marketing side. We had an incredible talk about a week ago. I'm going to put that link in the description below if you want to go check that out. I wanted to have them separately because I really do. They're two separate things that you guys do. So let's talk about your role now today, Josh. What is your role specifically in your company?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my role is focused on leading, hiring and training our sales team, as well as overseeing the construction side of our rehabs. But I really want to make a focus. And to your point, you said that we run a marketing and sales company. We do. And a lot of people who get into wholesaling, they think that they're running a real estate company. It's really a marketing and sales company. So really getting focused in and getting just great at the marketing piece as well as the sales piece is really what's allowed us to be so successful in the space.
You know, you're only the second person who I've ever not that you're only the second person that's doing that, but to actually say it that way, that this is a marketing and sales business, period. It's not, it is wholesaling. We are wholesaling. We're doing real estate. We're fixing and flipping. We're doing some other things, but we know right off the bat, right out of the gate, that this is a sales and marketing business. We're going to treat it as such. It just so happens that product that is real estate. So Josh, do we, because you teach as well, you're teaching other people how to do this as well. Folks who are trying to break into this business, how important is it for them to have that mindset going into it, that it is a sales and marketing business?
So I think it's critical. And really where I see a lot of people fail is they think that, one, sales is an art, which I don't think it's an art. They go out and if they're recruiting acquisitions people, they're looking for this unicorn of a salesperson that can just solve all of their problems. But the reality is that they need a scalable, teachable process to where they can bring anyone into their company and make them a performer. And really what I see a lot is people will go to a training, and a lot of the training in real estate space, they hand you a script. And a script alone is not enough. The key is that we have to focus on being a leader. And everyone teaches you as an individual how to close a deal, but are they teaching you to thoroughly go through a hiring process and vet out people who would be a good fit for your company? And not only that, but the moment they start with your company, this is where people make or break. Do you have a clear-cut career path for them? And are you going to continue to coach them into a position that's going to make them successful? Too many people throw their acquisitions people scripts and they say, hey, go lock up deals, and then 30, 60, 90 days into it, they're like, hey, where are the deals? And they've been not involved in the entire process, and they're really failing their people and they're failing their organization.
This is really interesting. You're saying this. You're 100% right. I'm not arguing with you at all. But here's where maybe some folks who might be listening to this have trouble. I'm just trying to put myself in my own shoes,
Right.
7, 8, 9 years ago, where you said, having a career path for people that you're trying to hire the right way, have process. Josh, I'm just trying to do my first deal, or Josh, I've done 5 or 6 deals. I'm just trying to stay afloat right now.
Right.
So how much do I need to be thinking about that right out of the gate versus I just want to make sure I like this. I want to make sure that I can make money at this.
Right. And that's a great question. Now I want to share a story that we went through that really solidified the answer to that question. When we first started, any marketing channel, it's going to create results. And when I mean results, you're going to create leads, you're going to create opportunities. And that's exactly what happened to us early on in our career. Tiff shared a story where she quit her job. And all of a sudden she didn't know what she was going to do. So she just was like throwing some money at this, trying to create some opportunities. And we were failing miserably, but we were failing with our conversations with sellers. we were going to in-person appointments. We were having conversations on the phones. We had opportunity in front of us, but nothing was ever clicking. And it wasn't until there was one point Tiff sat me down. She's like, hey, listen, like we can't keep doing this. We're blowing. At that point, we only spent a few $1,000s on marketing. And looking back now, we kind of laugh at it because now we know more of how many leads you need to create and to convert to an opportunity, things of that nature. But long story short, I really started focusing on NLP, which is neuro-linguistics programming. And I'd only ever heard of it because I follow Tony Robbins, and he talks a lot about NLP and how we can speak to the subconscious mind. And it's used a lot in sales. So I really dove into 3 specific tactics, which were embedded commands, adverb presuppositions, and tie downs. And I focused on these 3 things. I would literally practice every day. I had one appointment, and I knew that this appointment was make or break for us. And leading into that appointment, I had taken and I'd written out 10 sentences of things that could come up in my conversation. And then I practiced saying them out loud. And literally when I got to the appointment, I said this exact sentence, which is one that I prepared for. I said, hey, obviously you will feel very good on your drive home up to Akron tonight when you know that you don't have to come here anymore and waste your time, energy, and money on this property that's just been a big headache, right? And that one sentence is what changed the conversation for her. And they were actually, they were asking 50,000. And I negotiated them down to 25,000 just from that one sentence and showing them how I could bring value to the table outside of price. And that's really how we locked up our first deal, was focusing on the conversation. And a lot of people ask me, what's the magical list? What's the magical campaign? What are these things that I have to do in order to get a deal? And I always tell them, hey, shift your focus. You're already creating opportunities. If you're doing any marketing at all, I'm sure you probably have leads. Shift your focus towards the conversation that you're having with these sellers. And that's where you're going to gain a lot of traction.
So let's talk about this NLP, because it's obviously has a lot to do with your sales training.
Right.
But actually let's even back it up further than that. You're sitting here talking about hiring people. Let's just talk about hiring first.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there are people watching this where I've either tried to hire, it didn't work out. So I'm a control freak. I'm going to continue to do everything myself. No one can do it as good as me. I'm going to do it myself. Or I've tried it and I can't hire that right person. Or I tried it and I hired the right person, but they ended up leaving for X reason. How can we get more consistency, Josh, with our hiring process?
I think one, it starts with knowing and having a clear understanding of the type of person that you want to be in that specific role.
So for us,
once you have a clear-cut sales process that's teachable, then it's a matter of finding someone who is 1, coachable, 2, shares core values, and is very hungry. Okay. And everyone that's been a bad fit for our company has always been someone that just didn't mesh with us as far as core values goes. Mm-hmm. So that goes for any position. Sales, admin, transaction coordinator, anyone that you would ever look to bring into your company. You have to get very clear on what are the things that you value as a person and as a company, and make sure that whoever you're hiring aligns with those. Then outside of that, once you have a clear-cut sales process, then it's, hey, I can teach you the introduction. I can teach you how to set expectations, how to uncover motivation, how to talk about the property and things like that. Once you get to that point, it doesn't really matter if they have sales experience or not, because now you're just teaching the same fundamentals every day, and it's just repetition. And then you start to build that muscle over time. And that's really where I don't know if that necessarily answers your question.
Well, let me ask you this way. Is there a specific type of personality? Is there a certain type of person that operates best in this? And when we talk about sales role, we're talking specifically about acquisitions, right?
Correct.
We're talking about the acquisitions piece of real estate.
Yep.
So when we're talking about this sales role, is there a specific type of personality that lends itself better to this role?
Yeah. So I get that question a lot, and I think you're going to be surprised by the answer. I say no, the personality doesn't matter. And here's why. I've had accountants who on paper would never be great at sales. I've had contractors who on paper would never be good at sales. I've had bartenders who have been great at sales. I have a track record of bringing people in who share these common values. Someone who's very coachable, someone who shares our core values, and someone who is hungry and growth oriented. If you have those 3 things, I can teach you to be a closer. And that's really the key component there. And a lot of times people say, oh, you got to be a maverick, or you've got to have like the A-type personality. And no, that's not necessarily been the case for our company. As a matter of fact, I've had conversations with other people who run sales teams up to 30, 40 people on their sales team. And it's insane to me that they hire people and they have this track record of closing large amount of sales in other industries. And then they come onto their sales team and they put up a big goose egg. And on paper, they're supposed to be a rock star, but they're not performing in their company. And I ask them all the time, hey, what's the reason for that? And a lot of times people who have that sales background, they think that they know it all. And so therefore they're not coachable. And they've also been comfortable from an economic standpoint. So they're not hungry. They're not focused on growth. And that's where I've seen a lot of that just kind of fall apart when we have that one specific personality type that's great for the role,
So that's actually what I was going to ask you is how do you measure if somebody's coachable? How is it just in the interview? Is it just the questions you ask them? Is it just in the interview process, or are there tests that you can give them to take to find that out?
Right now, that's a great question. We have a 4-interview process. So the first interview is a quick phone screening, just making sure that they're okay with the hours. They know and understand the pay, and that they have a brief understanding of what we do as a company. Then we bring them in to our office. And this is where we talk about like our core value questions. This is where we talk about more of their history, some of the things that they're looking for. I ask them if they're into personal development. That shows me the growth piece. If they're listening to podcasts, reading books, things like that, and they're continuing to pour into their personal development, that shows me the growth piece. I want to have a better understanding of their track record too, because history tends to repeat itself. If someone was let go from a company because they did something that was unethical, that's probably going to happen again, right? So we want to dive into what their work experience looks like, some of the biggest lessons that they've learned, some of the biggest failures that they've had, and what they learned from that. And then the third piece here is that we actually put them on the phone, and this is where we find out if they're coachable or not. I put them on the phone, and they talk to live leads in our system. We've had deals signed from the interview process, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I put them on the phone and I make sure that they talk to three people minimum. And the reason why I do this is, one, I want to see how they maneuver on the screen through our system. Are they able to have a conversation with me and a seller at the same time? The second thing is the coachability piece. As soon as they get off the call, I'm coaching them up immediately on that phone call. Hey, your intro was great. You said this, but let's shift it. Let's say this next time. And the next time they get on a call, I'm looking and observing, are they taking the coaching points that I said, and are they implementing it immediately? If they are, that shows me that they're coachable, right? And then we're going to do it again when they get off that call. Hey, here's some coaching points. Let's get on the phone with someone else and let's see if you implement it immediately or not. And that's really where we start to filter out if someone is coachable or not. And I haven't found any great questions to find out if someone's coachable, because a lot of times people are professional interviewers,
Yeah.
So you just got to put them in the seat and see if they have the ability or not.
And I think, it might've been Jim Collins. And I think Tiffany actually quoted this. It's quick to hire, quick to fire type of thing, or slow to hire, quick to fire. Is that the philosophy?
Yes, absolutely. That's why we have the 4 interviews. Now, the last interview I didn't talk about is we take them out to a happy hour or a lunch with our team. And really what I'm looking for there is sometimes you'll have someone at the end of the table slunched over, not saying very much at all. I need to make sure that they're at least able to hang out with the team, because they're going to be a big part. We see our team as family. So we want to make sure that there's still connection there.
Yeah. So first of all, what do you pay an acquisitions person, a salesperson? Because I get that question all the time and I get a million different answers. And I'm sure you guys have probably even tweaked that over the years. So what have you kind of found and landed on that works the best as far as incentive goes?
Yeah. So I want to go back to having a career. And this is where I think a lot of people in our space specifically, they're just hiring and they're offering a commission, maybe a base plus commission, but they don't have a clear-cut career path for growth over time. So we really have 5 steps. And the first step is coming in as a follow-up specialist. Everyone starts as a follow-up specialist, or lead manager is a common term used in the industry. And this is really an opportunity for them to learn part of our sales process and get used to some of the terminology. So everyone gets a $2,000 a month base, whether it's follow-up specialist or acquisition specialist. And then the follow-up specialist gets a 3% commission on anything that they pass off that closes. Then that bumps up to 5% after they close their first 10 deals. That could be a 4 to 6 month process. Okay. So now the moment they start, they're tracking, let's get those 10. The sooner I get these 10, the sooner I bump up to that 5% tier. And that's their main focus. Then once they hit that focus, the 5%, once they hit that point, now how do I hone in my skills? I've already gotten through the first 4 to 6 months. I have a general understanding of the industry now. I understand the terminology, but how do I get to that acquisition specialist seat? Because that's when you get paid more. So acquisitions, they also get the base $2,000 a month, but they also get a 6, 8, and 10% tier based on the entire quarter. So the first tier is 0 to 150,000 closing the entire quarter. That's 6%. Then what they're going to have is 150 to 300,000, and that is the 8% tier. And 300 plus over the entire quarter is the 10% tier. So people have a lot of growth opportunity just in those 3 positions. Then after someone's been in the closer seat, the acquisition specialist seat, and they've been performing for 6 months, the base then increases to 3,000. Okay. And then the last and 5th final role would be being a team lead.
So, and then I get this question a lot too, and forgive me for asking a lot of questions that I get a lot, but I think it's important because everybody does it differently. Invariably, you're going to hire somebody and you're going to have folks that do really, really well, and you want to keep them, but sometimes people leave and they feel like they can do it on their own. Do you have a hard time keeping people after you've trained them? And if you do, what's your secret sauce of keeping them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it comes down to leadership. First and foremost, in the hiring process, ask the question, why real estate? Why are you interested in real estate? And obviously, being an investment company, people say they want to invest in real estate. I say, okay, great. Well, what specifically are you looking to do? At the end of the day, I want to be able to help people achieve their goals. And the more I help our team achieve their goals, the more bought into us and our company that they're going to be. And I think that's the key to keeping people long term. But at the end of the day, is you don't want to bring someone into your company who wants to go flip a house in 2 months. That's just not going to be a good fit. They're already telling you, hey, train me up on how to do this and I'm out the door. Right. But if someone wants to build long-term wealth and build a passive income portfolio, hey, I can help you with that. That aligns great with what we're doing. Yeah. So if they're looking to buy rentals, I can help you buy rentals. I have several people on our team that have bought their first investment properties. So really I just dive into more of what their goals look like and how can I help them. And over time, having our weekly one-on-ones, our monthly one-on-ones, and sitting down and talking about what are your goals? How are you getting there? What can I do to help you get there? That's really where that sustainability comes into play, is really helping them get to where they want to go. At the end of the day, when anyone ever has a job or they're working for someone, they're looking to gain something, right? So we just need to find out what that gain is, what that goal is, and then how can we align our goals to get to where we're trying to go.
For sure. No, that's awesome. I want to switch gears. I want to kind of go back to what I was alluding to earlier, what you were talking about, NLP. So now we've hired somebody and we're going to actually teach them our sales process. Yep. And I want you to go back to the kind of the NLP when you were first studying it. You talked about 3 things: the embedded commands. I missed the second thing, and then the tie downs. That a couple of things that I've been taught on and have learned from and have used in my career. What were those 3 again, and why are they so important?
Yep. So embedded. First, I'll start off in saying, if you have a script of any sort, it has these already built into it. NLP it goes hand in hand with sales, and it's really just the language with subconscious, speaking to our subconscious mind. So I talked about embedded commands, adverb presuppositions, and tie downs. And it's actually funny, Brian, you said right off the bat, you used an adverb presupposition, and you said, obviously, this is a big piece of your sales training. All right. So that's whenever we use a word like obviously or certainly, things like that, it's an ultimate assumption. And that's what an adverb presupposition is. So when I said to the seller that I talked about locking up our first deal, I said, obviously, when you drive home, you will feel good. That's the embedded command, stating that they will feel good. That's what I want them to feel on their drive home. So I'm commanding their subconscious mind to feel good about this process. Okay. And then at the end of the conversation, I tie it down with right as a statement. It's really getting them to agree with everything that I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Does that make sense? I was about to say that.
Exactly. Yep. And that's why I threw that in there, because that's another tie down, asking if that makes sense. But I said it as a statement, getting you to agree to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but go back to like why this is so important, or why you use this strategy or this particular types of sales method versus any other. Like I've here, I don't want to name names. Well, I'll name one name: the Grant Cardone method, or the ABC, we're always closing type of things. Why is this different, and why is this better in your opinion?
So I don't know if it's necessarily better. One, it was something I dove into immediately because again, I had followed Tony Robbins a lot, and I knew that he talked a lot about it and transforming people's lives. And I've also seen that most of the people that we work with in real estate, they're in distress situations. So how can I communicate with them and explain to them how we add value? And it's not just sell me your house, sell me your house, sell me your house, or being that used car salesman. That doesn't fit my personality. Um, Being that car salesman saying, hey, how can I get you in this car today? I wanted to stay away from that type of mentality because it just didn't fit me. So I knew that Tony did it at a high level. And that's really the reason why I went into that.
But why do you feel like it's the best? It's I know you just said that it's not necessarily the best. It's just kind of what you fell into.
No, I think it's something that fit my personality immediately.
Mm.
Yep. Being able to clearly communicate. And I never really studied. So my background is civil engineering, and you never hear salesperson and engineer in the same sentence, right? Let alone accountant or anything like that. So something that fit my personality type and something that was a science was really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
NLP is a science. It's psychology. Versus like, hey, how can I get you in this car? And pushing for that specific outcome. That's just something that never worked for me. And I tried it a lot and it didn't work. So I shifted gears. I went this route and I stuck to the science, and it got us results.
It's really interesting, and I feel like it's going to be personal for everybody, right? This is going to be something that it's personality driven, maybe it's skills driven, because you do hear, and you alluded to this earlier, you do hear people talk about sales being an art. For that person whose sales is an art versus a science, that might be more of the person who's not as analytical.
Right.
So is this something that you take into account and take into consideration when hiring, or you just kind of hire based on just this particular process because it's who you are and what you know?
So I hire only to this specific process. And the reason why it works for everyone, regardless if you are that artsy salesperson or not, is think of a mathematic equation, right? If I do A and B and I know I'm always going to get C, it works every time, regardless of who's involved or anything like that. So having and sticking with the science and knowing that every time I do A, every time I do B, I get C. That's why it works with all personality types. As long as you follow the process, trust the process, and we're accountable towards the process, we'll get the end result we're looking for.
So Josh, just taking a step back for a second and thinking about, because you guys teach and coach, and you have workshops that you do. I think you've got one coming up, right? You've got one coming up.
Yeah, we have one December 6th and 7th. We have a 2-day in our office. Yeah.
Now is that full already, or can people still register?
So that one's full. We just announced we're going to be doing one in January. I think that one, here, let me look on my screen here real quick. I think it's the 10th and 11th, whatever that Monday, Tuesday is. 10th and 11th is going to be our next workshop. And really that focus is around the leadership piece,
Okay.
And I guess the biggest thing I just really want to harp on is when you have a clear-cut process, now I can go back, I can listen to calls, and I can hold our team accountable. Did we hit step 1? Did we hit step 2? And things like that. And if they're struggling with any one of those pieces, every single step is teachable. Yeah. And I have a lesson around every single step. So now we can go zero in on the one area that we need to focus on and get better at. And a lot of times what I see is where people fail in our industry is not only just the onboarding and training side of it, but what happens when someone's not performing. And I think that's the most critical moment for buy-in, one, you as a leader, and two, the success of your company is how do we coach out of the slump? And really what I see is there's certain pieces of the process that's just uncomfortable for anyone to have. Again, we're working with distress sellers. We're working with people in distress situations. And it might get a little uncomfortable to talk about their motivation or their given situation. But it's important. It's an important part of the process because that's where we really build our values when we have a thorough understanding of what the situation is. But ultimately, over time, people start to, they might sign up someone who's low-hanging fruit, someone who's just going to be easy. The first person on the phone is going to be the person that lands that deal, right? but we want to focus on closing every single opportunity that crosses our desk that we see as a closable opportunity. So what I see happen is people go through this and they might sign up low-hanging fruit. They build this false belief that, oh, you know what? Maybe I don't have to ask about their motivation. Maybe that's just not an important piece because I just signed up a deal, not having to do that. But it's having the ability to break down the call, showing them in the process, hey, you skipped this part. And there's a life cycle that every salesperson goes through. And this is exactly what it looks like. You know, when they first start with you, they're eager to learn. They're absorbing all of the information that you're telling them. If you hired right and they are coachable, they're implementing everything. And they start to have an upward trajectory, right? They start to sign a deal in the first 2 weeks. They start to get a deal every week, 2 deals every week, 3 deals, 2 to 3 deals every single week. And then once they start to build these false beliefs and start to develop bad habits, then all of a sudden the performance starts to plateau. And at this point, this is the most critical point for you as a leader where you step in and you show them, hey, when you first started, here's the calls that you had, and you were checking every box every time. You hit every step of the process. But right now, for some reason, you're skipping these pieces. And I don't know why. I know you have the ability to do that. And here's the proof, right? Here's a call that you did all these things and you had a lot of success. Now, the beautiful thing is at this point in time, as a salesperson, you have 100% control over what happens next. You can either take my coaching and you can implement it and get back to checking every box every time, just like you did before when you had success, or you can continue to do the things that you're doing and ultimately you'll never bounce back and we'll have to make a tough decision. But I have faith in you. I've seen you do this. I know that you're really good and you have a huge focus on your growth. And let's go and let's control the things that we can control. And I have no doubt that you're going to bounce right back to where you need to be, right? So it's just a matter of coaching through that slump exactly like that. And that's the conversation I have with anyone and everyone on our team whenever they're having that downturn. And at the end of the day, it's all things that we as salespeople control. But if you don't have that sales process and you're not the type of person to sit down with them and explain, hey, here's some of the things that you're doing wrong because you don't have a clear-cut process, it's very hard to coach out of that.
So on that point, you bring people into these workshops who are in various stages of a real estate. They already have a business. You're not working with brand new people, I don't think.
Correct.
So people who already have some semblance of a business. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see right away? Is it mostly what we've been talking about today?
Yeah, the biggest mistakes are they don't hire right. They don't have a clear-cut onboarding process. They're not holding weekly one-on-ones. They're not coaching up on their calls. And really what happens a lot, and it's mind-blowing, is people literally throw a salesperson a script and say, good luck, go close deals. And that's the level of training that they're providing. They don't do daily sales training or anything like that. And it's just not sustainable.
So for the average wholesaler, if we're talking about that, and this is my opinion, this is based on a lot of interviews and based on coaching a lot myself, but the average wholesaler out there, they're running the show themselves. Mm-hmm. They don't have a true business. It's them in the business. They might have hired a team member or 2 or 3.
Yep.
But they have a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, especially if they're listening to this right now, may seem overwhelming. Is that the general sense that you get when people come into your workshops and you're talking about these things? It's a little bit overwhelming for them in the beginning to hear this stuff?
I wouldn't say it's overwhelming. It's definitely a lot of information, but a lot of times people walk away and they have a very clear-cut understanding of the first few and most important things that they have to implement. And a lot of times it revolves around having the structure that a true company has, having the meetings, having the one-on-ones, coaching their team, and implementing a sales process. And once they do that, then it's just a matter of getting in a rhythm. Yeah, it's unfortunate to say that a lot of people, they don't give the attention and focus that is required in sales. And again, this is a marketing and sales business.
Right. I think that a lot of folks don't. This is just, again, me and my experience and me just doing this a long time. And so it's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of folks who get into real estate specifically, in particular wholesaling, are coming from an employer type of mentality, aren't necessarily entrepreneurial, at least like in them. I'm not saying anyone can't be that,
Right.
But most of the people who come into wholesaling aren't really entrepreneurs or haven't been historically. So they're trying to learn this stuff and just don't know any better. Is that kind of the sense you're getting, or do you get a different sense?
No, I definitely think that is the case. And I think that's why it's so important to go and search for someone, a mentor who can help you through building that up. Because it's not going to change. You know, it's not going to change until you find someone who can show you exactly what you need to do. But that brings up a great point. I want to talk about like this 3-step process here for all of us getting to really what we want. We're all in real estate. We're in real estate for a specific outcome, right? And it's not about flipping this one house and keeping that one house as a rental. That's not what it's about. If I were to ask anyone who's listening to the show, it all dials into we really just want time, right? We want to spend our time with the people we want to spend it with, doing the things that we want when we want, right? But there's a three-step process to getting to that point. The first step is learning the industry, right? Closing your first deal and wearing all of the hats, being the marketing specialist, being the accountant, being the acquisition specialist, wearing every single hat in the business. And that's not ever going to change until you learn how to take that next step. And that next step is then building a team and becoming the leader that you need to become. And that's where you really start to magnify your results. As a one-man show, I've only seen people like max out at somewhere between 3 or 5 deals on average on a monthly basis. But that's where you're going to be capped at unless you make the decision to become the leader you need to become and build the team that you will have to have in order to magnify those results. Now, once you magnify those results, now all of a sudden you're in a position to where you can start to trade your time for money, right? Now you can start to have these passive investments and things like that. But I see too many people who want to be the one-man show and then have the end result. And it's just not how it works. Right. It's a 3-step process to getting there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. What I'm seeing though is just using the traction model. I don't know if that's what you guys use, but I think a lot of the folks who are getting into this business are visionaries, and they're being forced into an operational role that they just either don't like. All this stuff you're saying is like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want, that's too, and I use the word overwhelming. Maybe that's not the right word, but I just don't want to do all that. That's too much work for me and my visionary type of role. I would need to hire that person. That means I need to find that person. How do I find that person? How much do I have to pay them? So now I'm on the hook for this. And all these things are what I've seen are people that are thinking about as they're going about this business. I would love for you to kind of talk to that point. Because I want to know what kind of success, if folks are watching this right now or listening to this right now, and they want to come to your workshop, I want them to have a clear idea of what to expect. And can I change? And can I actually do this, what you're talking about today?
Yeah, that's a great point. And really it's going to dial into, it's going to be a process. This isn't going to happen overnight. And I don't know if Tiff talked about this. This is one of our biggest pet peeves is, there's too many people out there marketing that, hey, you can have this dream in 3 to 6 months. You're going to be on a beach while your team's working in the office in 3 to 6 months. That's just not reality. If you want to build this out the right way, it takes time. And if you are that visionary, hey, that's not a problem, but you have to start to identify who's going to be your first hires. This is all the stuff that we talk about. We talk about the lifetime of our business in our 2-day workshop. We talk about what are the lessons that we learned and how did we shift over time. We built this all out the wrong way at first. Everyone was telling us scale. We had 12 people on our sales team, and we created chaos. So we walked in one day and we fired everyone. So we talked about really what got us to where we are today are the lessons that we learned and the changes we implemented immediately to 3x what we were doing there with a third of the people. And it really starts with the foundation of systems and processes. So our 2-day workshop, Tiff dives into our systems and processes that built a solid foundation for us to have the right tools from management or leadership perspective to then build the team upon. So we have a huge focus on our acquisitions leadership, how we're hiring, how we're training and onboarding. We actually train everyone in the 2-day workshop exactly how we train someone when they're onboarding onto our team. And then we talk about how do we manage that person and lead them to success on a daily and weekly basis. And that's really what you can expect coming to the 2-day event.
And Josh, you said January 10th, 11th. Is that what you said? I forgot to write
January
it down.
10th and 11th. Yep.
And how do people find that? Where do they, is that open? Is the January one open for registration right now?
Yes, it is open. So this, I don't know if Tiff talked about this, but typically what we say is if you're doing deals and you're serious, reach out to us on Instagram. We do have a link that I can send you over and you can maybe post that here. But we'd like to hop on a call and find out, hey, are you even a good fit? Because we don't teach newbies. So you can reach out to us at Tiffany High Official or Josh High Official on Instagram, and we can connect and send over a link.
Awesome. No, so we'll put all that in the description, guys, all that in the show notes. What else did I miss, Josh? I think the only thing that you said earlier that I didn't really dive in on is leadership. And we talked about that a little bit, but what did I miss? What am I forgetting? What do people need to hear from you guys?
Yeah, so I want to talk about one concept here. And it's the difference between being a manager and a leader.
Okay.
And managers really focus on the results. They can grow results. And it's really, again, going back to that mathematical equation. If I do A and B, I'm always going to get C. So managers can manage A and B to always get C. Now, a leader shifts their focus on growing people and not growing results. When you grow people, naturally the results are going to grow. So this is where that weekly one-on-ones, finding out where their goals are, how can we get our employees or our team's goals to align with our company's goals, and how can I raise the bar every single week, every single month to push them outside of their comfort zone, to allow them to grow into that space and continuously push them to grow as a person over time. And I think that's really the key when it comes to leadership is being able to be that coach. And not necessarily the manager, but being a coach and helping them get to where they want to go and aligning that with the organization's goals.
Is there a book that you like or a resource that you like to give people out? Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm a big reader, so I enjoy this stuff.
Well, John C. Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I've read this three times.
It's up there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing he talks about, and this is something I harp on a lot, is the law of the lid. It's like the first or second law that he talks about. So if you're a level 4 leader, your organization will be capped at a level 4. So this is a level 1 out of 10, right? And you're going to fall somewhere in between here. If you're a level 4, your organization's capped at a level 4. But the beautiful thing is you can continue to work on your leadership capabilities because this is a muscle or a skill set that can be learned. It can be taught. And then if you are able to grow to a level 7, now your organization will be capped at a level 7. So we have to be focused on our growth as a leader at all times.
So that's it. 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I've got that up there. I've read that. Give me something else, Josh. Give me something I don't know.
Oh man.
On the spot.
Urban Meyer is above the line.
Okay. Now I'm not an Urban Meyer guy now.
He's in Jacksonville now. So maybe that'll help a little bit, but he does talk about the Buckeyes beating Bama in the semifinals
2014,
and playoffs there. Yeah.
42-35.
He talks about that season, actually. He talks about how, I don't know if everyone knows this, but they had a third string quarterback who took them to the championship and won the championship. But it's a result of the leadership that they had on their team. And he talks about their culture and really how leaders create culture, which then drives results. And it's a really cool story to hear how he took his job there at Ohio State and his leadership that he instilled into the program and how that resulted into a championship in his first few years. So that's a great book that I definitely recommend.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I don't really care for Urban Meyer, in a couple of years at Utah, went undefeated. I think it was the third year at Florida. He won 2 national championships. And then obviously went to Ohio State and did the same thing. So proven track record of results from somebody. And I'm a big believer in, I love reading biographies and things like that of successful people, especially sports, because I just resonate with sports. I'm a sports guy, but successful people reading, just kind of, and then just leadership ends up being like one of the big deals there. So that's awesome. I'm not going to get that one though, but I appreciate it. I can respect someone and not really care for them, right? Can I do that?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. But I will tell you, I think it's a great read, and I think there's a lot of lessons that you can learn from it, especially with the sports background and a huge interest in sports. So
awesome. Josh, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for coming on the show, man. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to do this.
No, I appreciate you having me on the show, and hopefully this was valuable to anyone that's listening, and look forward to connecting with everyone.
Guys, reach out to Josh on Instagram. We're going to put it in the show notes. At Josh High Official
Correct. Yep.
And then Tiffany High Official is Tiffany's. We'll put both of those in the show notes. Reach out to them if this workshop is something that you might be interested in. Some of the stuff that Josh said has resonated with you. Make sure you at least say hi. Tell them I sent you so we can at least kind of, track that a little bit. But Josh, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Guys, hit that subscribe button. We love you. We're going to see you on the next show. See you next time.